Hello, everybody. Welcome to ICC's Game of the Week with your host, as always, Joel Benjamin. As we hear about more and more incidents of players using technology to cheat in chess, appropriate concern can easily slip into paranoia. That seems to be the case at the European Women's Championship, where a total outsider, 38-year-old Romanian Mihaela Sandu, raced out to the lead with 5 out of 5, defeating several higher-rated players on the way. Her shaken competitors, including many who had not played against her, signed an open letter to the organizers asking for anti-cheating measures to be put into place. When chess players cheat, the evidence usually turns out to be quite plain. The moves seem to be beyond the player's ability and will often match the choices of chess engines. But I don't see that here. It seems that Sandu just took advantage of overconfidence and sloppiness from her better-known but hardly perfect opponents. This week we will feature Sandu's 7th-round win over former world champion Antoaneta Stefanova. Unfortunately, Sandu could not keep the magic going and lost her last 4 games. Then again, how many of us would play their best under that kind of stress? Okay, so let's get to it. Sandu playing white, and Stefanova goes for a modern defense, perhaps sizing up that Sandu's specialty is in the opening, although that didn't really seem to be the case to me. So this move c6 is slightly controversial against this move order with white putting a knight on c3 rather than a knight on f3 rather than a knight on c3, because white can play here c4, and then black can go into a variation of the King's Indian attack. Sorry, the King's Indian defense with an early c6, which some people play. Theoretically, c4 is meant to be a good move here. But a knight c3, black can go for d5, Gurgenitsa. It's kind of a hybrid between Caro-Kann and a modern defense, but actually Stefanova just goes modern, and after bishop e2, we have a standard Peertz position, classical Peertz. And as I've said before, the difference between a modern and a Peertz is when the knight comes out to f6. It's a Peertz, or Perk, as a lot of people say. But in the modern, the knight is often kept back for quite a while. So this is a very standard position from the classical Peertz, and usually black is playing c6 on move 6, and the main alternative is bishop g4. Now in this line, okay, here Sandu plays a4, and I remember years ago reading an excellent book on the opening by Dr. John Nunn, and he seemed to make the case that this move is not strictly necessary, and I generally believe that white should play h3. It's a very useful move, preventing bishop g4 or knight g4 in the case of the bishop coming out to e3. And b5 is not necessarily a threat here for black, because he has to deal with e5 coming, which I think is kind of a favorable answer to b5. So there are two schools of thought, but the move a4 is certainly a useful one for white, not only preventing b5, but often with the idea of expanding, gaining more space on the queen side with a5. On the other hand, it gives away kind of a useful tempo, and that can help black to counter in the center a little bit quicker. Okay, so black plays here queen c7, and along with knight bd7, that's a very useful move for black. Sometimes black might want to do this first just to make sure e5 and e6 doesn't happen. So now we see h3 and a5. Generally, black does without this move. Certainly,